happy to partner with Avaya on this session. We have Simon Harrison, the CMO of Avaya here, and Kelvin Dodd from TSYS. So thanks, gentlemen, for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So, let's just quickly start for those out there who may not know. I mean, everyone's seen probably the Avaya logo, but may not know. And, it currently, Simon, talk a little about Avaya's main sort of product sets of services and sort of your role at Avaya.
Yeah, sure. Yes, great to be on. Thanks for having me. So Avaya is arguably the largest global communication and collaboration provider in the world. We've got over 8,000 employees, support about 90% of the Fortune 100, and we're in 190 countries with over 100 million users across our portfolio. So really proud of what we do every day for lots of people and companies across the world. In fact, we're in 19 of the world's top 20 major banks as a key reference. One of the ones I really like is that we do payroll in about 62 currencies, just to give some idea of the kind of support we provide across the world. I'd like to describe Avaya as being by the experiences it creates. We're big on experiences. We're an experiences company and an experience economy, evolved experience economy, I would suggest. And we're all about connecting people and things in ways that offer more immersive or more productive and perhaps more memorable experiences. So that kind of really is our core focus. I'm the CMO of what I would describe as a wonderful team located across the world. In fact, I'd go as far as to say perhaps the best marketing team in the business, but I would say.
Great, thanks. And Kelvin, sort of for those who don't know TSYS, obviously Simon mentioned financial institutions, but why don't you give us a quick background on TSYS and your role?
Yeah, TSYS based in Columbus, Georgia. We've obviously...
That's your accent is from Georgia.
Well, I'm just outside of London. But yeah, American organization, merged with Global Payments over a year ago. So 24,000 employees, very much financial services payments. My role is all around all of the contact centers in Europe and EMEA. So full end-to-end financial services that we offer our clients within the contact centers for scale. For managed services, we probably do about 30 million calls a year, but it's all the other transactions, second, third line. We don't do any other sectors. It's purely the payments industry and financial services.
Great. So Simon, you mentioned sort of experience economy. So I had gone back and looked at sort of when the phrase was coined, and it seems like back in 1999, there was a book that came out that started, to talk about the experience economy and that sort of goods and services were no longer enough, right? So now we're talking about experiences. So really it's amazing, 99 to now, right? 20, plus years. And now we're really talking about how technology could enable these experiences. And in a world that we live in today, where we're fully, for the most part, digital, right? Those experiences probably become even more important as we interact, as we're under stress. Let's start with sort of this idea, and I've heard it referred to as the Uberization of everything, where people who have used Uber, just the simplicity of use, both by, I think we've talked about the consumer, the driver, the interaction, it's frictionless, it's seamless. Has that set the new expectation, and has that set table stakes now what consumers are looking for in sort of that experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great example of what you need to do when it comes to creating an application today in this evolved experience economy. And to add a little more color to what we mean by an evolved experience economy, it's reflecting on the fact that we now have lots of devices in our everyday lives. I've got various home devices that I won't mention because they'll start chirping away at me. Smartwatches, wearables, obviously our mobile phones have evolved, our tablets, our laptops, everything is evolved in terms of the things that we use to get things done, to connect. And then the modalities that they support have evolved, whether it's touch, haptic responses, natural language understanding, and then the ability to support different personas is presented based on those evolutions in terms of the devices and the touch points and the modalities that they support, And so this evolved experience economy is reflected in in a quite succinct way, but in the way we get things done, how we get things done, what we use, being so very different today. And it's changed really quite dramatically. It's almost crept up on us in a short amount of time. And so what Uber have done is realizing the potential and looking at EX and CX, considering the fact that they're two sides of the same coin now. So when you think about the user experience in particular, as soon as you order a ride, you're now in partnership with the driver. You're both seeing the same user experience. You both have access to the same kind of information that's going on between you. And once you've ordered that ride, the driver's now feeding the information about where they are, the route they've taken, updating you. And then when you get in the car, it's over to you, throw the ball over to you. Now you're gonna rate the journey. And so this kind of, you couldn't have composed this application by just thinking about the customer experience and the employee experience in separate ways. It wouldn't have worked. And so, as I say, the Uber example reflects really quite precisely how it is you need to go about building applications today. You can't do these things in isolation, and you have to think about multi-experience, considering that many devices, many touch points and modalities to supporting those different personas, whether I'm an executive, whether I'm someone traveling with family for fun, whether I'm a stag do for friends, whatever the experience is, it's a different kind of persona that also should be considered in building these kind of apps for great customer experiences.
Right. And I guess in some cases, right, great experiences are, almost transparent. You just expect them now. And, Kelvin, specifically around payments, right? I think we just expect now payments to work, right? Especially,
Totally.
Nowadays, we're using either, more in the States, touchless payment, right? With our sort of, with our mobile phone, we're paying through all these different channels using, either a traditional credit card or other forms. So payments we expect just to work. The problem is when they don't work, right? When there's a decline or when there's fraud or when there's a return and things don't happen as the customer, sort of expected. That sounds like you're dealing with, sort of not necessarily the good of the experience, but how do you handle sort of those, issues? Talk about sort of how that mindset of the consumer shifts, like the experience you have to deliver, because most of them are probably dealing with a problem.
Correct. So you'd expect with payments, customer expects seamless. They expect it just works. And we've seen over the last 12, 18 months, over 33% of general customer service has vanished. It's self-serve and automation and mobile app. However, the reverse is when you see something which is a touch point for a customer, which is sensitive, a fraud alert, a fraud on the account, collections, dispute and chargeback, where there's a real emotional bond with a holiday, a vacation, anything that's a sizable sum of money. The customer wants the reassurance that it's been dealt with, and they go straight to the voice. They default immediately. And I've seen just in the last 12 months, a doubling of volume and all voice. And that's what we've seen. Some of it's led by the process, but very few customers wish to go down the self-serve route. They're very sensitive. Their bank details have been compromised. They've got a sizable $5,000, $6,000 vacation that they want confidence that this is going to be refunded under whatever guise. So that's where you see the difference. So the generalist customer service inquiries, a third have gone. They're self-served. But where it's an emotional tie with a sizable sum of money, they want immediate answers. They want the customer service. They want the reassurance from that agent, that employee that can give them that they can then feel at ease. And you see the emotion in each of those call types, from a collections to a fraud to a dispute to a chargeback. Very much different, and it's definitely evolved in the last 12 months.
Yeah, those days of saying representative, right? How do you get out of that IVR sort of tree and get to a human being? So I want to talk about that handoff between, technology and automated sort of systems and humans, because obviously that's an important piece on how do we move, between these communication channels. And, and we've all been there where we start in one channel, we fill out information, we're handed off to a human that we would expect would have that information that we started providing, up front, and now we're re-explaining our whole story over again. I'd love to hear both of you talk about sort of how that handoff, can work seamlessly between, sort of if it's an IVR or a bot, over to a human, and how does that information need to move, between those, two channels?
I think.
Sorry.
Oh, go on. No, go on, please.
So obviously channel swapping is bad. So really it's about architecting channel designs to be the most effective and aligned to the specific job that the customer has. So I tend to prefer not to talk about quite precisely a chatbot or the benefits of it or the engagement of a certain channel type, and think more about what it is the customer is trying to get done. What's the particular resolution job? And when you start thinking about it, there's a marriage between, things that are quite transactional, where they might say, look, just give me the tool. I can do it. A banking app, a website. Perhaps it's something where they just want some kind of confirmation. And in that, guys, they might start looking at a web or an SMS chat, perhaps co-browse, maybe using self-serve, as Kelvin touched on. And then to his point, when it's sensitive enough, this is to do with money, this is to do with fraudulent activity or something that's just a bit more urgent, I'm going to pick up the phone, no matter how much you try to hide that phone number. This is complex, it's sensitive, it's urgent, I need to. And so if you carry on looking at it from that perspective, and you think about architecting these designs, and then think about the points at which you need to hand off as you describe it, and perhaps maintaining the context based on a bot, you really don't decide. We don't decide, the customer does, and they do it. Ours is to be relentlessly focused on making sure that it's possible for them to do that when they really want to do that. You must always maintain that if you're offering up a bot, that it's very obvious to the customer, it's clear that they're talking to a bot. Don't pretend that it's not a bot. And there are several types of bot. Obviously, you're looking at, perhaps it might be just to gather some initial information and then engage an advisor, and that's the end of it. It could be, I don't know, let's look for some holiday destinations and start engaging with a bot to get basic information, speak to an advisor, and then the advisor says, I'm going to hand you back to the bot just to get a few final details to complete the booking and so on. So it's really two things: relentlessly focused on ensuring that they're empowered to decide when it's right to be moving from some form of automation solution to a live person, and then to be thinking about the design to be not just one mode. There are obviously several modes, and AI is not just supporting in terms of conversational intelligence and automation. It's augmenting obviously experiences, offering up insights as part of a live transcribed conversation, etc. These are things that we all, we think about in quite a bit of detail as part of designing journeys for customers, and that really is essential because, hey, customer experience is about feelings, right? And so it's how these journeys make people feel. That really is your North Star, especially when you're thinking about a bot, would be my immediate thoughts.
I think for myself, in financial services, a very regulated activity, we only use the bots for back office. So 1 in 5 back office transactions will be done by a bot. What we try and do is we see the value of that customer and employee connectivity. And we need to make it a journey where it's one stop. And what we then do is, so the fraud, we know immediately there's a block on that card, and that when that customer phones, whichever number they phone, they'll only go through the fraud. So we make that seamless for that customer to go to the right area and the right functionality with a human. And we've seen a massive reduction in the propensity to call on that customer base over a period of 12 to 18 months. So yes, there's the bot, there's the technology, but the customer, by and large, they wouldn't really realize that, 1 in 5 will be done on a back office. But that frontline, sensitive, regulated activity, we direct them based on, we can see the card. We know what's going on with that card. We know it's a merchant block, something's going on, and we can then direct it automatically 100% to that right agent. So, right. Yeah. The key things.
And Kelvin, we talked about, so obviously architecting that experience, right? Directing the traffic to the right, place. requires, a set of solutions, right? So if you think about your various channels, if it is web or phone, historically TSYS has built a set of solutions to be able to accomplish that. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are going down a path with Avaya to sort of integrate solutions and think about a more holistic, sort of approach to all of your channels. Talk about historically how you addressed all the different channels using different partners. And I know we talked even about RPA, to where the roadmap is of how do you integrate and really, sort of build this 360, view and from a technology perspective.
Yeah, I mean, if you take the whole issuing of the cards, that's all in a very clear data center, and we are replicating that. So at the moment, we were previously in TSYS all bricks and mortar, all the different comms rooms around the world. We standardize and centralize with Avaya. So we'll create a foundation there, which will also enable, instead of having the 20 suppliers and the multiple products that will have a different one in Netherlands to Germany to London and to the US, we go with Avaya and we'll use the one product set. And that will enable us, we believe, efficiencies, cost effectiveness, and obviously seamless, and for the customer, an improved journey and experience. And that's the journey we're on. The key thing was the stability, the security, then we evolve and how we can take that to really impact the customer in a positive way. And that means we have the product suite. Everyone is different from a customer. So we have they have the menu, and that's how we'll take it in terms of each option they wish to choose. A lot of it is driven by the actual channel, as I mentioned, in terms of the product and the issue, as opposed to their own preference. But they have the opportunity, and that's where we'll take it with Avaya, and we'll go down that road, and it'll evolve. But it'll be very world-class and a great experience for the customer.
Right.
Kelvin, great listening to his thoughts about the future, and because actually what he's done is really well articulate what it is that we try to get across to our potential customers and our existing customers about the importance of being an ecosystem provider. We are not looking to deliver just a monolithic application, say thank you very much customer, off you go, we've ticked some boxes, over to you. We're more about creating a journey, and what is reflecting on the journeys that perhaps the Kelvin is quite relentlessly and focused on delivering for his customers, but orchestrating these in a very clever way. In fact, composing solutions to these experience ambitions, and that's a key term, right? We are in an era where there is this explosion in devices and modalities, and when it comes to composing the best application or solution for that, you're not really going to do it stood up if we had a bunch of engineers stood in a room in front of a board and they went, right, let's try and figure out this monolithic app that's going to do what Kelvin needs to do. It won't work. You have to think about the in the moment experiences, the devices that are being used, how they're being used, and you have to compose something that brings it all very cleverly together in minutes and hours using that knowledge at the edge, supporting innovation at the edge, and so you kind of have your core, as Kevin's touched on, that rock solid core and foundational element to build on, but you have to have the ability to lift off the glass ceiling, and that's how we think about it at Avaya, to really start to create what is really precisely what's needed for you as this business, that business. They all have very, very precise ambitions in terms of those journeys. And Avaya is excited about how we're in a position to do these wonderful things around, as I said, composability. That's the word. If there's one word I'd love for you guys, perhaps on the panel, to think about and to remember from this, it's about composing experiences for customers now in this really evolved experience economy.
Great. So we've all been there, right? We've been on a phone call with a rep. We've gone through the online. We're not happy. What's the thing we do now is we turn to social media. And I've realized now, pre-pandemic, I fly United quite a bit. And the best way, even though I'm pretty high status there, to get a response is to tweet at United publicly and get a response, even to the point where some of my friends who follow me on Twitter said you only tweet when you're having a problem with United. How does that now play into thinking about that experience? You know, if we're not, if consumers or customers are not turning towards the traditional channels anymore, and they're turning to public forums like social media, how does that play in to the overall customer experience? Is that data that you're capturing, listening to, and able to respond to? Just wondering sort of, you know, how that's part of that journey.
I think for financial services, and it's a little bit different in that if I take the last 12 months, yes, they can go on social media and talk about accessibility if there was wait times or there was an outage, but a lot of it is around, a lot of the noise in financial services would be around a dispute or a chargeback or something which has created detriment for them. And a lot of that's actually being leveled for low. It's not the issue, it's actually the merchant. So that's where it confuses it. You know, it's more the holiday firm or the airline, not the actual bank or credit card organization. But yes, I've seen it recently, an explosion of feedback on Trustpilot and other things like that. And it's just evolving, and it's part of delivering a good service. You know, table stakes not accepted. You know, you've got to deliver above and beyond your game, because especially at the weekends and others, it explodes.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I would add that, you know, when it comes to, you know, those ways to engage marrying to types of channels, brilliant one, right? Give me a soapbox on one event. Okay, let's jump on Twitter. That's the perfect channel of engagement when you want to shout and be listened to. But the thing that is important when it comes to social engagement is that you have to empower the ability to manage by exception, right? If you're going, you know, there are organizations that may get 100,000 tweets in an hour, and there may be a ton of those mentions that need to be filtered and handled by customer services staff or customer experience center staff. And so how do you do that well? You've got to actually realize the power of an application. The measure of a really good social application is how well it enables a social network to do what it does best, which is let others have a say. Let people that are involved, perhaps fans of your brand, to help answer some of those questions. Fans of your brand that may want to say, well, okay, I appreciate your problem, but have you looked here? And so being able to bring them in to the fold, make them part of the solution, is a key aspect to the technology that you have to realize if you really want to have a powerful social solution as part of a customer experience center. I just wanted to add, you know, that extra level of color about how we think about it.
That's great. And we're running out of time, but I do want to go to a question. We have a question out there from Matt Quint, who will be speaking later on from Colombia. I think you're on audio.
Great, thanks, Josh. Doing my due diligence, listening to some of the content to hopefully tie into my discussion with Sunil Karkera. So experiences at the heart, I direct what's called the Center on Global Brand Leadership at Columbia Business School. And my faculty director, Bernd Schmidt, wrote similarly in 1999 a book called Experiential Marketing. So right in tying to this. And, you know, one of the things he talks about beyond sort of what you guys have been discussing, which is a little more the technical, smooth experience, into more the, you know, thought leadership, let's say on the business side, or lifestyle on more the personal side, types of experience that are beyond sort of that direct interaction with the app, but create that broader halo of how I associate the brand with other ways that it helps me in my life. And I wondered if the two of you maybe could comment on how you're trying to do that with your brands.
Yeah, I mean, for me, well, you kind of, I do course correct me, but it feels like you're talking about the importance of customer experience being organizational wide, and how you have to think about every potential touch point and ways in which a customer might engage with an entire brand, and consider that as part of your your challenge. And that then also leads you to have to consider the dissolution of the front and back office divide. You have to think about how everyone can be a customer experience or customer services advocate, and the technology that can empower that, so that there is this, there isn't this kind of bricks and mortar sort of square box of people in a separate room that deal with your customer services challenges, and the rest of the business doesn't have anything to do with that. It's front to back. It's all of the processes being reorchestrated to support. Perhaps if you think about the technology enabling you to compose experiences for customers, it also empowering the business to compose the way it does business, the workflow, and the importance of that CX-wide ambition as part of this thinking to deliver something that is it's not so, as you say, neatly described as a customer service experience. It could be quite haphazard. One of the examples I used to talk about when thinking about this was if I go and get my car serviced, and they shoot me a little video under the car saying my exhaust is still okay and my tires are not worn out, I will not end up speaking to customer service about that. Sales have nothing to do with that. It's almost a completely separate touch point to everywhere else, but it's part of my experience. It makes me a brand fan. So this is the way I perhaps think about addressing that kind of challenge, really.
The only difference for myself is I've got 26 different clients with very different brands, very different countries. And for me, my employees, although they work for TSYS, they actually work for the client. And they see themselves as working for the client. So everything is living the brand. The client will send the videos and they involve them as part of the brand, because their touch points are just as important as anyone, because it's them who are speaking. They'll speak 200-300 times a month to a customer, and if it's all about the brand and the values. And we do a lot of work on brand awareness, not just in continuous improvement, but also for the brand, so they live exactly how that brand is portrayed in the marketplace. Everything around that awareness.
So I just want to end, we ended the last session talking about data. I think, want to, end this one on data, because both of you, are gathering a lot of data about your customers, using that, and they're entrusting you with this data, and obviously, and especially in the payment space, and you're using that data to personalize the experiences, right? We've talked about, if we're pushing them down a specific, route or channel, as people think about personalized experiences, we've all heard the ones that have gone wrong, right? Sort of you use the data and it's just as, it's probably worse when you create a personalized experience and it's the wrong one. Just talk about sort of each of you, how you think about data and how that informs and creates these personalized experiences, and any final rules of thumb on when you're using and creating these personalized experience, any sort of things to watch for.
I think for my industry, it's very transparent, social media as well, but also complaints, very regulated activity. We look at every complaint. And a lot of them, unfortunately, it's the right message and process, but the wrong outcome for that customer. But we look at how we can refine that, how we can improve. So big focus within the UK would be around how you deal with the complaints. It's a key measurement in most CEOs' board meetings. It's a key customer metric that we'd focus on, and the data's there. Everything is stored and tracked and audited.
Yes, it's great to perhaps lead into my thoughts. So, lots of I've actually listened to quite senior leaders in businesses say we absolutely know what our customers want, how they want it, and that was it until we asked them, and then we realized how wrong we'd got it. And it's actually really important to be listening to your customers, using the power of analytics, whether it's conversational or whether it's other ways to learn more about the customer, to learn more about their challenges, their ambitions, what they're saying that's good about competitors, lots and lots of insights that then inform ways of doing personalized experiences better. There's some tactical aspects, you need personal insights, transactional insights, and communications insights as a minimum. And then really the utopia is around using perhaps predictive models to predict intent and cut off at the pass a customer even thinking about having to pick up the phone. If they do, and let's be real about this, if any one of us has decided we've got to a point where we now have to pick up the phone and speak to someone, that business is already on the back foot. We don't want to do that. Right. And so if you can avoid that by predicting what it is that a customer might need to get in touch with and do something about that first, then that is the best way to sort of personalize experiences. But it's when we think about customers, the customers have changed an awful lot. The way that we think about customers, at Avaya, we talk about them being the everything customer. They want to be relentlessly connected, but they don't want to be left alone sometimes. They want to be equally treated, but at the same time, treat them very uniquely. They want to be expected, but not expected, and they want fully featured, but they want effortless. We're a really demanding bunch right now. So that makes the recipe for coming up with the best personalized experiences even more difficult. But it's not a dark art. There is a science. If you can apply the data in the right ways, you really can create lots of brand advocates, lots of brand fans that want to tell everyone about how great you are.
Right. Well, Simon, thank you very much. Kelvin, thanks again for joining us. I know a little later on in your evening. And Simon, thanks for Avaya's support of the event. Really appreciate it. We'll be circulating all these videos in the next couple of days. Hopefully everyone will be sharing them with their networks. But Simon and Kelvin, thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.